Think back to the last time you pulled a $100 bill out of your wallet. Not a digital notification, not a tap of your phone, but that crisp green physical paper. A decade ago, that bill felt like a shield. It was a week of groceries, a full tank of gas, and a dinner out with friends, all wrapped into one. It carried weight. It carried a sense of security. But today, you break that 100 and it's gone before you even leave the parking lot. You're earning 60, 80, maybe even $90,000 a year, more than you ever thought you'd make when you were 20, yet that $100 feels like loose change. You're doing everything right, but you still feel like you're falling behind. You might think this is just inflation, but that's only half the story. The real reason that $100 feels like nothing has less to do with the economy and everything to do with a specific neurological glitch in your valley circuit. Your brain has been programmed to devalue the very thing you're working so hard to save. And unless you understand the neural hardware behind this feeling, you will stay trapped in a cycle where no amount of money ever feels like enough. By the end of this, I'm going to show you exactly how your brain's internal exchange rate was hacked and the specific psychological shift you need to make to stop your wealth from leaking through your fingers. Be honest with yourself for a second. Have you noticed that as your salary went from 40,000 to 70,000, your spending floor rose right along with it? It's a phenomenon I call the neural adaptation trap. When you were younger, $100 was a destination. Now, it's just a transaction fee for existing. But here's the strange part. Even if the price of eggs went back to 2010 levels tomorrow, that $100 still wouldn't feel the same to you. Why? Because your brain doesn't see money as an absolute value, it sees it as a relative signal. Imagine your brain is like a GPS that hasn't been updated in 15 years. Your old brain, the part responsible for survival and resource gathering, is still using a mental map from when you were a teenager. To that version of you, $100 was a massive resource. But as you entered the workforce and started seeing larger numbers in your bank account, your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain, recalibrated your normal. This is where things get interesting. Your brain performs something called unit normalization. When you see a $5 coffee, your brain doesn't compare it to the total value of your labor, it compares it to the size of your paycheck. If you earn $80,000 a year, $5 feels like a rounding error. Your brain literally stops sending the pain of paying signal to your nervous system. You're not losing your discipline, your brain is simply muting the alarm bells that used to keep you safe. But that opens up a much deeper question. If your brain is muting the pain of spending, why is it amplifying the stress of not having enough? You'd think that if $100 felt smaller, the fear of losing it would feel smaller too. But it's the exact opposite. This is because of a conflict between two neural systems, the reward circuit and the security circuit. When you spend that $100 on something instant, a nice meal, a new gadget, your dopamine receptors fire. It feels small because the pleasure is fleeting, but when you look at that same $100 sitting in a savings account, your old brain views it through the lens of loss aversion. Your brain is wired to feel the pain of a loss twice as intensely as the joy of a gain. So $100 spent feels like nothing, but $100 lost or missing from your expected net worth feels like a crisis. Think about your own life. Which one are you? Are you the person who drops the $100 on a Friday night without thinking, but stresses out over a $10 increase in your monthly utility bill? That contradiction is the sound of your brain's value circuit short-circuiting. You've been programmed to treat spending as a low-stakes game and saving as a high-stakes battle. And this is where most people get it wrong. They think the solution is more willpower or a better budgeting app, but you can't out-budget a neurological pattern. You've probably noticed that no matter how many finance hacks you try, that feeling of being behind persists. That's because of a mechanism called the hedonic treadmill. Your brain is designed to return to a baseline level of satisfaction regardless of your income. When you got that last raise, your rewired brain immediately integrated that new income as the new zero. You didn't feel 30% richer, you just felt like your lifestyle finally became adequate. This creates a dangerous loop. Because $100 now represents a smaller percentage of your total normal, you treat it with less respect. But because everything around you has become more expensive, that $100 actually carries more weight for your future security than it ever did before. You're treating your most valuable resource like it's infinite, while your survival brain is screaming that it's scarce. It's a recipe for chronic anxiety. Think about the old brain versus rewired brain comparison. The old brain evolved in an environment where resources were physical and visible. If you had a pile of fruit, you knew exactly how much you had. But in our modern world, money is an abstract digital ghost. When you tap your card for a $100 purchase, there is no physical feedback loop. Your brain doesn't see the pile of fruit shrinking, it just sees a plastic card and a screen. This lack of physical feedback creates a disconnection bias. You're not lazy with your money, you're just neurologically disconnected from the reality of the exchange. You've been programmed by a digital financial system to view $100 as a frictionless unit of data rather than a concentrated hour of your life's energy. What would happen if every time you spent $100, you had to physically count out 100 single dollar bills? Your brain would instantly re-engage. The pain of paying would return because the visual and tactile sensors of your brain would finally have something to process. But here is the real problem, the one nobody talks about. It's not just that the money feels smaller, it's that you feel smaller in relation to it. We live in an era of social signaling overload. Even if you're earning $80,000, your brain is being bombarded with images of people living like they earn $800,000. This triggers your status detection circuitry. When your brain perceives that you are lower in the social hierarchy, it enters a state of high cortisol stress. In this state, your prefrontal cortex, the part of you that plans for the future, actually shuts down. Your brain shifts into survival mode. And what does a brain in survival mode do? It seeks instant gratification to soothe the stress. This is why you buy things you don't need when you're feeling the most broke. You're trying to use a $100 dopamine hit to mask a $1,000 identity crisis. You've been programmed to believe that spending is the cure for the stress that spending creates. It's a self-reinforcing neural loop that keeps you earning more and feeling less. So, how do you actually rewire this? How do you make that $100 feel like the powerful tool it actually is? It starts with breaking the unit effect. Your brain treats a single $100 bill as one thing, but it treats 10 $10 bills as a collection. Research shows people are much more likely to spend a large bill than they are to break a stack of smaller ones. This is a hack you can use. But deeper than that, you have to reconnect the life energy to the digital unit. Next time you're about to spend $100, stop. Don't think about the price, think about the hours. If you make $40 an hour after taxes, that $100 dinner isn't $100. It's 2.5 hours of your life. It's 2.5 hours of you sitting at that desk, dealing with that boss, and navigating that commute. When you force your brain to translate currency into life minutes, you bypass the hacked value circuit and speak directly to your old brain's sense of survival. You move from being a passive consumer to a conscious steward of your own time. But there's another psychological trap that most people fall into, especially once they start making decent money. They think that as long as they can afford the payment, the value doesn't matter. This is the ultimate broke brain habit. A rewired brain understands that affording the payment is not the same as owning the value. When you stop seeing $100 as a payment and start seeing it as capital seed, everything changes. Every $100 you don't spend is $100 that is now working for you rather than you working for it. This is the shift from a consumption identity to a capital identity. And once you start noticing this pattern, you'll start noticing another one, which is exactly what I break down in this video about why your brain is actually blocked from wealth even when you're doing everything right.